Welcome, friends, it's the Movie Film Podcast. The Movie Film Podcast, enjoy the show. Zachy and Brian are talking about movies. Movie Film Podcast on the radio.
Welcome to Movie Film. This is episode 84, brought to you by Mr. Boy Productions. My name is Zachy Hassan, and joining me once more, my good friend Brian Hall.
How's it going, Zachy?
Hey! This is our last episode of 2015.
Whoa. I was so focused on other things that didn't even occur to me.
It feels like just a few weeks ago when we sat down, we were like, it's our first episode of 2015. And we waxed poetic about that briefly, and then here we go. Where did the year go, Brian?
I know, well, that's being the big Back to the Future fans that we are. Obviously, 2015 is sort of a flagship year in our brains. And I remember writing my first rent check of the year. Wow. 2015, and now, it's weird to think that is now almost behind us.
Weird. What'll we do next? What'll we do now, Brian?
I don't know. We need another movie with a famous year to cling to.
Well, it's like 2029 when Judgment Day has been in the past for however long, right? In Terminator, when is Terminator set? Isn't it 2029?
I feel like I don't remember. I remember it changed. It jumps around movies, right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, in the first two, I think it's like 20. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, we'll check it out.
I'll be embarrassed if I'm right about that right off the bat, because
I think it only makes sense.
And then, of course, 39:55 is when Planet of the Apes is set, so we've got that to look forward to.
Hey, I'll see you there.
Yeah, we will be hunted. I will probably be stuffed and mounted in a museum, but. There we go. But what an eventful year of movies it's been.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Quite the year. That you were leading to me for that. That was like, I don't know. I'm so focused on one movie right now.
Yeah, you know what I will say? If you would have told me at the beginning of the year that we would break the all-time opening weekend record, not once, but twice.
Twice, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that is a good call. I mean, this has been a year of things that we love as kids coming back anew.
That's right.
But in ways that aren't like they're not remakes, right? I mean, they are extensions of
Absolutely.
Which is really interesting. And probably why those two movies, Jurassic World and Star Wars that we're talking about, The Force Awakens, were so well received, right? Because it seems like they were handled with care. They were handled
like crown jewels for their respective studios.
Yeah.
Now, of course, this is the episode where we are going to be talking about Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and I was thinking, normally our normal pattern for our episodes is we've got we do a little bit of trailers, we do a little bit of headlines, and we got a bunch of stuff to talk about. But when you think about it, we've been building up to this for so long. I know that you've got a lot to say. I certainly know that I've got a lot to say. I was thinking, let's dispense with our normal routine and let's close out 2015 by just doing an entire episode where we talk about Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
I think if there's any movie that warrants that for us, this is the one.
This is it?
You say, I mean, we've been doing what? Since it was announced, we've had a segment called Star Wars News.
Yeah.
Every episode, all leading to this. So yeah, I think we have a lot to say, a lot to discuss. We haven't really shared our feelings on this yet.
Not with each other, no.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to get down and dirty here and just hear everything you have to say about it.
Well, and it is kind of funny because the acquisition of Lucasfilm by Disney occurred very shortly after we started doing this show. I mean, we were single digits. It was like episode 6 or 7 of our show.
Wow.
So it's weird how the timing works. So it does feel appropriate that we take a moment and unpack it.
Yeah, I'm ready. You ready?
Well, so we're recording. This is Sunday night, December 20th. So we're at the tail end of the opening weekend for The Force Awakens, and I mean, this thing is a blockbuster. And I want to acknowledge up top that on this show I've said, you know what, I think it'll do well. I don't think it's going to break the opening weekend record.
You did not. So you didn't think it was going to break Jurassic World's record?
I did not. I said that Jurassic World's record is probably safe for a little while. I was completely wrong. So I want to.
Jurassic World opened with 208.8 million.
That's correct.
Domestic, right? So Star Wars. Have you seen the number?
It overshot it by I think 30 million.
30 million, 238 million domestic in 3 days, and I'm sure that counts Thursday night, right?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. And this also had the biggest Thursday preview gross with 57 million. So 57 million in just one night.
Just to put this in perspective, 57 million, not Thursday, Friday, Thursday night.
Right.
So in other words, this movie made 57 million on Thursday night. Fantastic Four from Fox made 56 million total.
Really? Oh, wow. Oh, man.
There's some perspective for you.
Yeah, well, and then it has the biggest Friday and biggest single day gross ever with 120 million on Friday alone. But I mean, I don't know about you, but I go to the theater, the ArcLight, which is a theater out here. I think they have them in a couple cities, but it was like they have this enormous board, digital board that has all the movies playing and all their times. And when I went and saw it, every single slot was Star Wars, except for Sisters. There was one theater showing Sisters.
One lonely theater.
Yeah, but it was funny too because everybody in the lobby was taking pictures of it because it looked really cool. But not only was it playing in every theater, but it was playing through the night. I don't know about where you were, but it was, I mean, like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. It was going through the night.
I'm pretty sure that was the case here. I don't know that for certain, but I'm reasonably certain that was true.
Yeah.
And when you look at these numbers, and we don't want to get bogged down in these numbers, but I just think they're fascinating.
It's interesting.
It really is. I mean, just the pent up demand for it.
Mm-hmm.
The Thursday night number is more than Batman, the 1989 Batman made in its opening weekend.
Wow.
The Friday amount is more than Spider-Man made in its opening weekend.
Wow, Friday alone. Wow.
Friday alone, minus Thursday. So, in other words, we're talking about how the previous benchmarks, the previous record holders have just dropped like flies. So, I mean, it is a big, in this age where it's kind of like, these things are more and more, it's hard to separate one record from another.
Yeah.
The fact that this sort of, somersaulted past Jurassic World by $30 million is extraordinary, especially because that was in the middle of summer. This is at a time when schools are still in.
Mm-hmm.
Friday
traveling,
right? People made an effort. They called in sick, and it really was certainly the last few days were a cultural experience in a way that I haven't seen it at the theaters in a long time.
Well, that has been really interesting because, I had people that I worked with took the day off to go see it. And it was all anyone was talking about in my universe at work and online and social media and whatnot. But also, I was talking with friends who aren't really involved in this universe, like who haven't even seen. I talked to a friend who hasn't even seen any Star Wars films. And she was like, she's never seen anything like this. Like something that she is not involved with at all has completely invaded every aspect of her world. From television, she sent me a picture of oranges from a grocery store that had a label that had like Kylo Ren on it. You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's never seen anything like a marketing blitz like this before.
Yeah. Well, and so that's the box office. What about the reception? And critically, it's done pretty well. It's in the 90s, I think, right?
I was going to say, last I saw, I feel like it was like 97 or 95 or something like that on Rotten Tomatoes, but like super high. I saw the cinema score was A.
Sure.
Yeah. So, phew, right? That's like a relief, right? Is that what we were all had our fingers crossed for?
Well, and that's, did this benefit from lowered expectations a little bit?
How do you mean?
Well, do you think that, and not lowered expectations in the sense that, obviously there's a mountain of hype and whatnot, but did we lower the bar for what constitutes good Star Wars because the prequels had sort of set that bar so low?
My brother and I were talking about this because if this had come straight from the original trilogy and that's it, and all we had was this thing that was beloved.
So a 32-year gap.
Yes.
No Star Wars, no prequels,
and nothing that we were griping over.
Sure.
Right. And they just gone into this. versus having that little buffer period where we had a thing that we liked, but it brought us back down to earth a little bit, where we're sort of like Star Wars. We didn't have to be 100% reverent toward it. Like there were things that we could be like, well, this wasn't perfect. This wasn't perfect. Yeah. I wonder if that helped a little bit and made us love it even more, when it seems, I would say most people thought it brought back what they loved most about Star Wars to begin with.
Sure.
So yeah, that probably helps. I know, even I've talked about this for regular listeners of the show, but Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I talk about as the there is no Santa Claus moment of my adult life.
For both of us at the same time that happened.
Yeah, we shared that moment together. And that was where something that I loved was coming back from the same people who made it. And I was seeing the trailers and I could not contain my childlike enthusiasm for it. And it let me down. And it was one of those things where I honestly, I wonder if that sort of played into it, because obviously we're going to get to what we thought about the film, but walking over to the film, when we literally walked to the theater, I remember I had this feeling and my friends were like, "Are you excited?" And I'm like, "Yeah." But like I had a very realistic, like, it's just a movie. You know what I mean? Like it can only be so good or it can only be so bad. Like I didn't have this crazy unrealistic expectation personally. Yeah. Walking over, I was like, I just hope I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And maybe that comes from those past traumatizing experiences from getting your hopes too high for something that's just a movie. So I don't know. How did you feel walking into it? What was your...
So I've seen it now 3 times. Mm-hmm. And I don't normally go 3 times just because A, I don't have time, and B, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
This is just one of those scenarios where it ended up kind of working out that way. So I'm actually grateful. My first viewing was a press screening. Mm-hmm. And it was 2 days before it opened. And, it was very interesting actually, because it was only press. It was not one of those things where it was open to select people who, had a pass or whatever. It was only press. And I'm grateful for that, because it allowed me to view it separate from sort of the fan experience, which I think was important to be able to judge it as a film.
I see. Where it wasn't like you were filled with overly enthusiastic people.
Yeah, like
the experience like itself.
Every 2 seconds, and I got to have that experience, and I'm grateful for having had that too, because that made it memorable as well. But I'm glad that was my second time out.
Well, I've seen it twice now, and I've noticed that people have cheered at all the same moments.
Sure.
So when you saw it with press, I mean, did press ever get into it like that? Like, did they ever cheer or clap or
like, they were laughing at the humorous moments.
Yeah.
And, there was, there was acknowledgement of kind of cool stuff, but it's just going to be different than like a fan crowd.
Right. For sure.
But when I went in, I went in with the mindset of kind of what you said, like Crystal Skull, like you, it kind of broke. It didn't break me, but it broke my mentality of like, I'm never going to have that experience the same way as I did when I was a kid. So I can't expect that.
Yes. Yeah. And that's not to say, and we'll get into this, I'm tipping my hand a little bit here, but like, I did have moments like that in this film, but like I think, the moments leading up to it, like I don't have these like crazy expectations like I would have had when I was a kid.
So I mean,
the film rolls.
When I went into this, I was like, my and to be honest, this is still my thinking is, you know what, I have my Star Wars.
Right.
The Star Wars that's special to me because of who I was when I saw it and that experience that I had, which is, inseparable from my identity. Well, I have that and I'm happy with that. And whenever I watch those films again, a little piece of that comes back. I'm not expecting this to give me that again, because I'm not, I'm 30 years older now,
Right.
However, just give me a good experience. Give me a fun movie that I enjoy, and that'll be fine. And hopefully my kids will like it. That was my thinking going in. And I was very grateful that I had that experience.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when we talk about, we should do our like little token non-spoiler reaction, and we can sort of dive into it.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I think it's a thumbs up from me. I'm pretty sure it's a thumbs up from you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Getting into it a little bit here, I saw it a Thursday night, which I guess is technically a preview night, and I just had so much. This almost sounds like I'm contradicting what I just said, but like I had so much on my mind, just like, is this going to be good? Like I know it's going to have a lot of elements that I want to see. Like we have the returning cast. I knew, I mean, Han Solo's in this movie, and I was like, I kind of, I have to like sort of explain how I am a little bit to make this make sense. But like when I get a new album, right, from like my favorite band, I listen to it and I'm thinking, like I'm taking it in and I'm like, oh, this song, that's interesting when it did this. And I'm thinking too much. And then when it's over, I'm like, that's interesting. I don't know if it's exactly like the last one, but I think this was kind of cool. And then I like listen to the album again. And then I'm like, oh, this is really great, because I've turned off the analytical part of it. And I feel like when I saw the movie the first time, heaven help me. Like that's just how my brain works. And I was just like, well, that's interesting. Oh, that was kind of an odd choice. Oh, like I like seeing him. Like, I wonder if he'll do this. Like, oh, he didn't do that. I kind of thought he would, but then, and I just kind of had that running commentary in my head.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that I didn't enjoy it, because I did. And I thought it was a lot of fun, but I found myself walking out with a lot of questions.
Sure.
And that was like the first thing that I wanted to talk about. And it wasn't even complaints. It was like, well, I kind of thought like this, and I kind of thought like that. And then I woke up the next day and I was like, oh, but you know what? That was a lot of fun. And this was a lot of fun. And that was a lot of fun. And then we were supposed to record on Friday. And I told you, I was like, I got to see it again. I got to see this again before I can't even have like a formulated opinion on this until I see it again, and just like let the analytical part of my mind stop and then just watch it. And
until you let go your conscious self.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I did. I saw it this morning again. I knew the events that were going to happen. I turned off everything and just let it unfold in front of me. And I just had a blast with it this morning. If that's even, some people might not even believe me, but like I got more emotional this time, even though I was already familiar with the story and the events and everything. And like this morning was, I think, the experience that people had, a lot of people without the crazy busy minds that I have, that just went in and were like, just let me have fun. That's what I had this morning. And I had a lot of fun with it. I really feel like JJ totally, well, I mean, we're going to get into the things that, this isn't like an unabashed 100% A+ thing. Like we have our couple nitpicks, but like, did JJ deliver? Like, yeah. I mean, I think he nailed it.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm coming from here.
So that's our non-spoiler response is go see it, and we don't want in any way to say anything that's going to spoil the movie for you. So we want to draw a clear demarcation point in this episode. We give it a thumbs up. If you're waiting for our seal of approval, you've gotten it. You have our permission. Go see it.
Yeah.
And then when you do, come back to where you paused this episode, because now we're going to be talking some spoilers.
Let's do it.
Okay. So general reactions. I mean, why don't you get the ball rolling? I mean, go ahead.
Well, I'll say this too, which I guess could have gone before the spoiler thing, but I went with my friend Anna this morning, who has only seen the first Star Wars, and she just couldn't get into it. And to be fair, like, she didn't grow up with it. She was like, yeah, I get it. And she was confused because she knew too much about the story, right? She knew that Darth Vader was Luke's father, and she was watching the fourth one, A New Hope, and she didn't understand why they didn't know that already. And, it was just too confusing in her mind. And so anyway, she went and saw it, The Force Awakens, even though she didn't catch up with Empire or Jedi.
So having only seen episode 4.
Only seen A New Hope. And we were like, well, when it was over, what did you think? And she's like, I loved it. And we're like, really?
Wow.
And
that is interesting.
I mean, we're behind the spoiler wall here. So we're going to talk about, I'm serious. Like, if you have not seen this movie, turn this off right now. When Han Solo dies, she cried. And this is without her seeing him ever frozen in carbonite, without seeing him ever, with Leia and, the actual love story unfolding in Empire and everything. And I was like, well, that's a success. I mean, when you're continuing a movie for people who adore this universe, and you're also trying to get new fans and re-kickstart a franchise, I should say, with this crazy investment that Disney's put into this, where we're going to see a Star Wars movie for every year for the rest of our lives. success. I mean, that's a success. I was blown away that she was so moved.
Okay, I mean, let's not bury the lead. So the big story here is that Han Solo dies. We waited 32 years to see him again. I wouldn't even say we waited. We didn't expect to see him again ever.
No,
and
I don't. I certainly didn't.
You know, and so we talked about this on this show, if you remember, where I was just like spitballing with you, and I was like, I think Han's going to die in this one.
Yep. I remember you talking about that, and it made sense, and it was hard. And, you know, we talk about the whole spoiler thing. This was a movie I've never seen people who were so sensitive.
Yeah,
and
people
I understand.
Being a little ridiculous, I got to say.
Well, people were being a little ridiculous, but I would say when people who were like blaming other people and whatnot, it was like that was your own fault. I literally stayed off the internet. Literally did not go on Facebook, nothing for like 2 days once reviews were up, because I was like, I'm choosing this for myself.
Sure,
you know,
sure.
I don't want to know. But I kind of lost my train of thought here. But like I'm just amazed that this whole story was kept under wraps so well. Like when the opening crawl started and the first sentence is like Luke has disappeared, I was like, holy crap! I have no idea what this movie's about. That is amazing.
That was my exact reaction as I was reading the crawl. I was like, wait a minute, I've never read this crawl before.
Yeah, which is super
this is totally
exciting.
new, you know?
Yeah.
So we were talking about Han Solo.
Yeah.
So when did you? I'm curious now, because my feeling is that if you're like a nerd like us, even if you don't know it's coming, you know enough about sort of story structure that you probably know it's coming.
Well, let's talk about. Let's go right to it. Let's talk about that moment. And this was actually one of my initial hang-ups with the movie.
Okay.
I mean, we'll just do it. Let's do it. Like,
I think we're well past the spoiler marker at this point.
Yeah. And we'll get to like the whole movie, of course.
Yeah.
But let's go right to the big part.
Why bury the lead, right?
Yeah, I think, again, when I was thinking too much the first time I saw it, I knew it was going to happen right away.
Why?
And I think most people probably did. It was, you know, we know that Han is talking to his son, or sees his son, Kylo Ren, who has turned to the dark side. And Kylo Ren is alone on a catwalk with no rails.
Yeah.
And Han calls out to him, as the Empire is, for some reason, continually want to make.
Right.
Catwalks with no rails. And it just, well, quote Han, I had a bad feeling about that. Like, and it just, and knowing you have to add some of the Star Wars history that you know too, where Han always thought, or I'm sorry, Harrison Ford always thought that Han should die, and it just, you know, he was so positive about being back. It almost felt like maybe they gave him a great moment, so I had to kind of assume was his death. But anyway, so when he goes out there, the analytical part of my mind was looking at it too much like a story, like a movie, rather than experiencing the movie.
Okay.
And I think I started to actually tell you this over text, and you're like, stop, like save it for later. Again, this was my initial impression of this. When I was thinking too much, it reminded me of the moment in Empire, because my friends and I marathoned the original trilogy last Sunday. And when we were watching Empire, and you see Han being brought in handcuffs, and, you know, Leia is upset, and Chewie is like growling, and he's like, no, you got to take care of the princess, you know, Chewie, and I got to go do this. And the music's like intense, and there's a smoke over Vader's face. And it's like, that is an extreme moment. To this day, it holds up as this really intense emotional moment.
Yeah.
And I almost felt like having that so fresh in my mind, that this moment, Han Solo confronting his son and then being killed by his own son and then dropping to his death, I was like, was that given as much weight as it could have been given? Sure. And I think what held it back slightly is the fact that we don't know Kylo Ren super well yet. Like, we don't know. We haven't. This is the first film. And I said to you, it felt almost like they were trying to stuff in the end of Empire with all that comes with it, the experience that we've had with two films, into the first film.
Sure.
And maybe it was a little early, but I have to say, on second rewatch, it worked a lot better for me, because I was just, and because I was familiar with it, you know, to be frank, I knew it was coming, but I was able to, I was able to read into a little bit more of Han and Leia's reunion and their sadness over losing their son. Because again, the first time you're watching it, you're like, that's Carrie Fisher. You know what I mean? Like there's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
And watching it again, I felt like it worked a lot better for me. I still feel like it is kind of a tough way to lose Han, but like if there's any way to have Han go, I would much rather than lose him like in a battle or something.
Yeah.
Having him go in such a dramatic, almost like Shakespearean way. And I got to say, this is going to sound nuts, but the first time I watched it, I was like, wow, that just happened. Yeah. And the second time I watched it, I actually did get like a little teary eyed. And I loved Harrison Ford, dude.
Yeah, it was amazing. Oh, so fantastic in this. Yeah.
And that moment after he gets impaled with the lightsaber and then he puts his hand on his.
I was just going to bring that up. Yeah.
And he falls down in that chasm. I mean, that was intense.
So the first time I watched it, now I went into this and I've avoided all the spoilers, but I'm looking at it in terms of parallels, right? To quote Lucas, right? It's like poetry. It repeats itself, right? Right. And so I went in, I was like, episode 1, we lose Qui-Gon Jinn. Episode 4, we lose Obi-Wan. So I went into this like, if we're gonna repeat that pattern, it sure feels like Han Solo is the guy. Yeah. Right. And so, the film is playing out and, he plants those explosives and then he sees Kylo Ren and he steps out onto the catwalk. And I literally, my heart was pounding.
Yeah.
Literally because I knew what was about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never felt that in a film before.
Interesting.
I was I was aware of my own, what my body was doing, like just the bump, bump, bump. I could feel it, Yeah. And so it was one of those things where you're prepared for it, but you're not prepared for it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when you plot the parallels, it's an exact mirror of how Obi-Wan Kenobi dies.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And when I was saying too, again, it's funny because I hate to be so like keep talking about my first experience, my second experience, but that really was how it was. And I think it's helpful to kind of understand that. But like, I think whereas we don't entirely understand Kylo Ren so far, and we do, I mean, we'll get into that later, him as a character, but like we know Han.
Yeah.
Like we have 3 films previous and a lot of this one with him. So that's
and in addition to that, we have 30 years of accumulated attachment.
Yeah, exactly.
In between,
So yeah, I found that moment. I really thought that moment worked.
Really well. If you want us to hate your villain, that's what you do.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know where to go from here. I mean, do we want to talk about characters, or do we want to just like jump into the movie and kind of go through the movie?
You decide, Brian. I'll follow your lead.
Let's go through the movie because then I think it's going to inevitably get us to those characters as they're introduced. So I gotta say, on second rewatch, both times I love the first act of this movie.
Yeah,
I mean, it just right from the get go, the crawl, of course, is like, like I was really excited seeing that. But then,
just real quick, what I also found, I'm just in terms of my own reactions, I love that every single film, John Williams reorchestrates the theme.
Yeah, and you can tell.
So if you really listen, you can tell which movie you're listening to the Star Wars theme from.
Yeah. Yeah, which is very cool.
Yeah.
And we can even get into that later, the score, which, but, so Oscar, I mean, this is the thing, right? This is what was so amazing about Disney is like, I could tell you every name of the characters in this film, like 4 months ago.
Yeah.
But I had no idea who they were.
Right.
Right. And it's funny because, my brother bought this thing and, it came with a free Funko Pop character.
Okay.
And he gave it to me and it was Poe Dameron.
Okay.
And I was like, cool. I have no idea who this guy is, but I hope I love him soon, like, and I got to say, I do. Like Oscar Isaacs, man, like if anything, if he didn't have enough of something, it was Oscar Isaac. Like,
that was actually my big not concerned, but certainly a complaint I had was that it was Poe Dameron of all the characters really relies on just Oscar Isaac being a really charming guy.
Dude, well, and he
is
totally pulled that off. Yeah, he became this like sort of almost like cool big brother character that you're like, I like that guy,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and like, and he's not even in the movie that much. But anyway, so starting at the beginning, yeah, we start off on, I guess that was Jakku, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first, and so you got Max von Sydow, which is crazy, right? Because he's only in this movie
for like a minute and a half,
3 minutes or something. Yeah, and he's some sort of mysterious ally to the good guys, and you know, talking about parallels, the movie starts off with putting important information into a droid.
Yeah,
right. And so I just thought that whole opening sequence was great, and then of course, what is the First Order? Is what they're called. Yes. I want to keep saying the Empire comes down and ransacks the village, kills all these people, and we're introduced to a bunch of our main characters, right? So we got Poe, who's kidnapped. We got Kylo Ren, who's introduced. We got Finn, who's like a stormtrooper who decides that he doesn't want to troop any storms. So with that there, what did you think of that whole opening sequence there?
Well, I think that I was struck by the economy of how very quickly they set the stakes, they set the characters. I thought it was very clever the way they engineer a way for us in the audience to know which stormtrooper we're supposed to be following.
That was great. As soon as because he watches a fallen stormtrooper, and the fallen stormtrooper goes to our hero stormtrooper Finn and puts his hand on his helmet to put these 3 little bloody fingerprints. Immediately I was like, brilliant.
I know, right? You can see sort of the behind the curtain what they're doing, and I appreciated that. I was like, that's very clever.
Yeah, super clever, and it's also like symbolic. I mean, that's the crap that he doesn't want anything to do with. Yeah, and it's like stained his uniform.
I think that the introduction of Kylo Ren is very effective. I really liked his voice, the oscillated voice, which was evocative of Darth Vader without doing the heavy breathing and without having, obviously, James Earl Jones. I do think that I think that Finn, and he's, what is he, FN 2187?
Yeah.
Right. I think that his
stormtroopers aren't given names. Stormtroopers aren't clones in this movie. Stormtroopers are kids that are basically stripped away from their families
and just brainwashed
and given numbers for names. Yeah.
I think that his heel face turn felt like I feel like John Boyega, who plays him, is so likable that we sort of buy it. But when you think about it, my question is like, well, why him? Why did he have this sudden bout of conscience? Doesn't anybody else? There's a little bit of that.
I guess, yeah. If I feel like there was one weak character in this movie, I actually thought it was Finn.
Okay.
And the reason is, and it's not John Boyega's fault. I think he's great. I think the idea of his character is great, but I don't think they capitalized on the potential of what that character could be. And I even felt that the second time through as well. Because when you think about it, I was telling my friends when we were walking out this morning, I was saying, like, what really was his journey? Like, it started in a really interesting place because he's this stormtrooper who is like basically bred to be just a foot soldier and a killer for the First Order. And then he abandons his post because he doesn't want to do that. Or I don't even know if it's really for right or wrong. He just doesn't have the stomach for it is kind of what happened.
It's more that he's right.
Yeah. And then it just he's basically just comic relief for the rest of the movie. Like, he doesn't really have much of a journey. And then we were saying when the movie ended, we're like, he doesn't really need to be in the next movie. Like, what would he do? Like, he doesn't have, everyone else has like an arc going, but he doesn't. And that is a complaint of mine because I felt like he should have, and he completely could have, because he's like a scarred person.
Yeah. Right.
Like, he's only known this certain thing, but they don't play with that. He just becomes a sort of like way overly enthusiastic, you know what I'm saying? Like, he just became like the comic relief basically through the rest of the movie.
Well, I think first, like you said, really got to give it up to John Boyegas because he is just so likable.
Yeah.
You
It's
can't,
great. Attack the Block. If people haven't seen that, I mean,
which I have yet to see. I know you've recommended.
Oh, it's great.
I want to see it now. So I think he papers over a lot of sort of the what feels like sort of gaps in the narrative. In that sense, I mean, I think a flaw in his development is also, to me, a flaw with the Poe Dameron character, who he's more of a concept than a character at this stage.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, is he a good pilot? Because I don't think they mentioned that in the.
But Zachy, they mentioned it like 5 times.
At one point, Finn is like, "Wow, that pilot's amazing," or something like that. I'm like, you didn't need to. Yeah, we get it.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that is a really. Oh, he goes, "That is one hell of a pilot."
Yeah, that's.
He's just from the ground, just watching like some X-wing fly over his head.
I'm like, it's a little on the nose, guys. We get it. You know?
But see, that's the thing, though, is because Poe's character was absent. I felt like it didn't ping me so much.
Sure.
But with Boyega, I mean, skipping ahead a little bit, we were talking. My brother was like, "It's kind of crazy and selfish, like how Finn decides to like lead an entire fleet to this like death weapon just for his own selfish purposes."
Right.
like it if he had like half a plan, or if he had whatever, but he's like, no, I really don't have a plan. I needed to do what I need to do. And then Harrison Ford or Han Solo is like, dude, there are like thousands of people depending on you right now.
Galaxy is depending.
Yeah. And Finn's just like,
No, but that does give us one of the best moments. It's like, I don't know, just figure we let the Force figure it out, you know?
That was a great line, but I gotta say, I felt like, and he could have still had that line, but I just felt like I wish there had been a little bit more richness or texture, or more of an arc for this character. I just felt like he sort of tapered off at some point.
Yeah. Well, I think the problem is that it's sort of like you've got to balance. I think there was a little bit of, bait and switch going on where they were sort of setting us up to think of Finn as the lead when in fact Rey, who's played by Daisy Ridley, is the actual lead.
Okay, so let's talk about Daisy Ridley.
She, before you say anything, she blew me away.
Dude, she is like the find of,
right?
Like for decades, she will be the find. Like she's unbelievable. Like, I mean, the actress, the character, like the fact that the lead of this movie, and it seems like the way that it's going, is like a female character, and it is like such a non-issue, right? Like there's never a moment where they have to point it out. There's never a moment where she has to like be this, but still like but I'm a girl, and like that, like she's just a perfect lead. Like she easily carries this movie.
Yeah. Like
I just, both times I was just completely in awe of her, but also she just fits right into this universe. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like again, with Finn, a lot of times Finn would say sort of like modern sounding things, which took me out of the movie a little bit. But like she just effortlessly fit right into this universe. And like I could watch an entire movie of her and her journey and would be completely excited about that. And that's like a success for Daisy Ridley. I think that's a success for J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan, in creating her. And like, yeah, she's fantastic.
Well, and so the question obviously that's out there is, well, actually, before we even talk about that, let's talk about Adam Driver as Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
So, dude, very divisive character.
Laser bolts. Come on.
That was super cool.
That was awesome.
I love he freezes the laser bolt, and they drag Oscar Isaac by it, and he's kind of like looks back at this laser beam frozen in the air.
Did you see it in 3D?
I did.
That was so cool in 3D. that one little moment was like worth the 3D alone.
Yeah, it was. Well, and a lot of people, again, very divisive. Yes. The character's divisive, but also the actor, just based on what I'm seeing online. I really liked Adam Driver in this. I thought he was fantastic.
I think he's perfect.
For
this character. I mean, I think the character is a little. There's still a lot of gaps in what we understand about him, which
which isn't necessarily a flaw.
No, I don't think it's a flaw necessarily. That's the tough thing too. I mean, when you had the first Star Wars, A New Hope, come out, it was kind of a one and done, right? Like they didn't know they were going to get to make sequels, and then they did, and then they knew, okay, well, this is going to be almost like a two-parter. But like when we go into this one, they know there's going to be 3 stories to tell one complete story, which is cool and something to look forward to. But at the same time, it kind of can hinder. That's kind of the problem is that I gave The Force Awakens a B in my review. And I saw that. Yeah.
Well, and I don't, the reason I do that is because I'm kind of like, well, I can't judge this film holistically. So just as an experience, I mean, I was engaged and I was enthused and I was I enjoyed it, but it's not a complete film. So that's why I give it a B, and it's almost like contingent on, okay, well, let's see how you resolve the sort of the plates that you've got spinning here. You know what I mean?
So it's almost like you're saying you'll have to judge the 3 together because they're one. This is the first act of a 3-part story. That's
like, what I wrote in my review is that I think people were too kind to The Phantom Menace initially. Because it was a lot of like, well, they'll resolve it later, and the story's just starting, and so people were far kinder to that movie than they are now, because now it's like, oh, they didn't resolve shit and it's terrible, like,
right.
And so I'm kind of like, well, we need to see what this trilogy is going to be, and that means we got to see where it goes. And when you think about it, I mean, this is kind of interesting, because certainly for you and me, this is the first time in our lives where we have no idea what's coming next in Star Wars.
Right.
Because our experience of the original trilogy was in hindsight.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the prequel trilogy, well, everybody knew it was coming. I mean, everyone knows what it's about.
Yeah, it was inevitable where it was headed.
Exactly. Whereas here, this movie ends, and we'll obviously talk about that final shot too. But it's like, what's going to happen in a year and a half? How the hell should I know? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Which is a cool feeling.
Well, and speaking of Phantom Menace, and bringing it back to Kylo Ren, so they invented this Darth Maul character who were like, okay, we don't have Darth Vader. We need another cool villain that we can kind of like the way he looks and attach ourselves to.
And market the crap out of.
Yeah. And it was like, damn, they did it. Darth Maul looks badass. Like, right. And he looks like he fits in the Star Wars universe and whatever. And then he's in the movie for like 9 minutes, and then he gets killed.
He's in it for slightly longer than Max von Sydow in this.
Yeah, right. So with Kylo Ren, it's like, oh man, they got to. Well, that's the thing too. We didn't know if Darth Vader was going to be in this movie. I mean, to be fair, we can't kind of assume he wasn't, but like we didn't know. And like who's going to be the villain who's going to carry these 3 movies, and it seems to be Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
And through the marketing, I was like, well, he looks awesome. That mask I think is great. It's evocative of Vader. Like the back of it kind of fans out, sort of like Vader's mask did and whatever. But what's interesting about him, and what I really liked about him, is that he is strong in the dark side, but he is completely immature.
Oh my, yeah, he throws these tantrums.
Yeah, dude, when he first pulls out his lightsaber and he starts hacking away at that console on the Starkiller base, I was like, this is cool. Like, this is a guy who has no control. And that's why he's probably so susceptible to the dark side. And hopefully, will that sustain over 3 films? Like, I assume it will. They'll figure out ways to continue to draw it out. But as our introduction to him, I was like, that is a really interesting idea.
Well, and I think the casting is, plays into that. You have Adam Driver, who's kind of gawky and awkward, and you know what I mean? He's this skinny guy. He's not sort of, he's like, you can see why he's racked by all this conflict, I think that he has a lot of personality because he has a very non-traditional face. I don't mean to, I sound like I'm demeaning him or diminishing him.
But it's not, but that's what movies do. Movies cast people, like when they cast quote unquote the ugly person, they cast people who are more beautiful, facial structure than anyone you'll ever know in your life. Like, movies are a completely unrealistic reflection of the world. He looks like a normal guy.
A normal guy, exactly.
And I thought, yeah, I don't want to step on
Like, well, he's not buff. He's kind of skinny, and you know what I mean. And I just think the decision to make, this isn't a Sith Lord. He's a Sith wannabe.
Yes.
He's like a goth kid.
He is. And it totally, and it's funny too, because he has, the mask on for a majority of the movie, but then he takes it off twice. And both times I was like, man, what this guy's doing with his eyes, when he has Rey in that like torture chair,
yeah,
and he's just sort of cold, but seems sort of scared that he's not able to control her like he thought he could. Yeah. Which is really interesting. And then also when he's on the catwalk with Harrison Ford or Han Solo, I don't know why I keep calling him by his real name, with Han Solo. And that moment, even though, like we were saying, it felt inevitable that Han was going to die. There's that moment where he takes the mask, and Han says it, like, take out the mask. You don't need that mask. So he takes off the mask, and he talks to him as his son, and you see these tears start to form in Kylo Ren's eyes. And it's just, but it's still like you're not entirely sure what's going on behind the eyes.
Yeah,
I thought he did a great job. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think it's the question is, are we on a redemption arc for this character, or is this the damnation arc?
And see, that's what's tough, right? I mean, we're kind of skipping around in themes of what we're talking about, but like this movie, I think a big criticism of this movie is that it follows the template of A New Hope too much to a T.
Sure.
Right. And so going beyond that, which we can touch on later, so I think the big question people walk away with is, what is Kylo Ren and Rey's relation? We got to assume they have some sort of relation. Are they cousins or are they brother-sister?
Right.
Either one almost feels not enough because we're already assuming it.
Right.
So if it's about redemption, it's like, well, we've seen that story. So how do you do that in a way that makes me go along with it
again,
and experience it, anew, afresh, and there were things in this movie that they repeated that I totally was able to feel refreshed with. And there were some things that I didn't. So if this is like the whole arc of your trilogy, like how do you go into similar territory and not make it feel repetitive?
So and based on that, I think that this is not about, like, Kylo Ren is at the minute he stabbed his father through the chest, he became irredeemable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that being said, the minute Anakin Skywalker killed little children should have made him irredeemable. You know what's funny, by the way, is that, like, I just recently rewatched Revenge of the Sith. I hadn't seen it in a while, but I watched it with my kids. And there's the moment where Anakin, having turned to the dark side, he goes into the Jedi Temple, and those little younglings are like, Master Skywalker, what are we going to do? And it's like, he lights the lightsaber. And I had this visceral reaction to that. And I realized, like, I haven't seen this movie in like the whole way through and almost forever. And since it came out, I've become a parent. I have 4 kids. Right. And I'm like, you know what? You don't get to become a good guy again after doing that.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I kind of forget about it, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't associate that moment with Darth Vader.
Sure. And when you think about it, because I'm watching it, I'm like, why did you need that in there? Just cut it. Like, why wouldn't you cut that out?
Yeah, it's a pretty dark moment especially what Lucas keeps saying that he wants to avoid. When he didn't want Han to shoot first.
Yeah, he didn't want Han shooting first, but as far as the killing of younglings, to explicitly put that in Anakin's hands and then be like, oh, but now he's a good guy, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it.
So anyway, from a purely technically that should make him irredeemable. However, I think in terms of our own sort of insertion into the franchise, when the guy who kills Han Solo doesn't get to come back and become a good guy again. We as the audience won't allow it.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I can see it is if it happens similar to Jedi, where it's something at like the last second. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't necessarily become a good guy, and then we get to spend a movie with him as a good guy. You know what I mean? Like, it's maybe he does some sort of redemptive action at the end.
Sure.
To save someone or whatever. But
see, you know what I like? I like the idea that, not everybody comes back. Sometimes you just go too far.
I would be all right with that too. And like Rey can handle it, and she can manage the light and hold off the darkness, and he just couldn't, and it's tragic.
Yeah. Now the interesting thing, we're talking about whether Rey, like, who is she? And this is a conversation that's been, I'm sure you've been having it with your friends, and it's been all over the internet. Who is she? What's her deal? It seems, based on what's set up here, that she's of the Anakin Skywalker bloodline in some way.
Right.
And my contention is that they're making it so obvious that why leave us hanging unless that's not the case?
I can see that. Yeah, it's like a misdirect.
It's like if you were to say, well, what's the safe bet? I would say probably she's Luke's daughter. That's where that's where it seems to be headed.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think it would be more interesting to say she's not connected at all except through the Force,
which could totally be.
So in other words, she's not a Skywalker by blood, but she has this connection with the Force, which joins them, which I think is almost a more interesting way to do it. And it walks us back from Jedi pregnancy tests and, you passed on your midichlorians and all this other crap, because that's something that J.J. Abrams has specifically addressed.
Right.
In interviews, he's like, I don't want to, he steps very gingerly, like, well, I don't understand George Lucas, I don't want to tell him his business, but.
Yeah, he wants to feel like anyone could tap into the Force. Like, you don't have to be chosen and have this sort of bacteria in your blood or something.
Yeah, ringworm.
Yeah.
Space ringworm.
Yeah.
Which, when you think about it, that was our conception of the Force before Qui-Gon busted out that pregnancy test.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I think this could be a way of getting back to that. The idea that, Rey, she's been separated from her family, and we'll probably find out who they are. But the family that's waiting for her is not literally her family, but the new family that she makes.
Mm-hmm. It was interesting, though, how much her and Han clicked.
Sure.
And it seemed like whenever something was going bad that he was about to reach for, she would reach for it first.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was fun. And you could almost see if they were of some relation, that was like tapping into that a little bit or hinting at it a little bit.
Sure.
But who knows?
It's one of these things where it's almost pointless to speculate.
Yeah, we have 2 years to.
And there will be resolution on it. So it's almost like, well, whatever,
Yeah. Yeah. But we know that she was abandoned on that planet.
So there's clearly
waiting for her family to return.
There's some clues planted here that people will be going over, like the Zapruder film for the next year and a half, Now, very interesting. Now she goes to, and by the way, you're talking about the parallels to A New Hope, which some people are singing the praises of, some people are complaining about. I'm somebody who, back when The Phantom Menace came out, this was my complaint about The Phantom Menace. I was like, why don't you mirror the structure of A New Hope more closely?
Interesting.
That was my complaint about that film, where I was like, they should have started with, instead of all that shit in the beginning with, Naboo and the Gungans and all that, you start with the Naboo fighter being pursued by the Trade Federation, and then they have to take refuge on Tatooine. So it's like an exact parallel. And you don't have Qui-Gon, you have Obi-Wan, he meets Anakin, so in other words, it's a much more close parallel, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that this one does mirror A New Hope, I don't complain about that, because that would make me hypocritical. I actually like the fact that it is it's like poetry, it repeats itself.
Well, do you mind that this is the third Death Star?
That I do
movies?
Mind. Not only is it the third Death Star in 4 movies, it's the 4th of 7 movies that ends with the enemy's base / ship blowing up as the climax.
Right.
Because that's how the Phantom Menace ends. It's not even, I don't even mind that it's the Death Star. It's another Death Star-ish thing. I don't like that it's introduced halfway through the film as kind of like, oh, and by the way, this is like the evil big brother of the Death Star, by the way.
Yeah. And it's, I completely agree. And I think if there's, like I said, when I was thinking too much and I watched it the second time, there's a lot that I was like, you know what? I think I missed that line. I was too focused on this and da-da-da. I'm like, they did handle this well. And 2 thumbs up for me, really. Like, I really love this movie. I can't wait to watch it a third time sometime soon. But the things that I can't let go, I went along with it much easier this time.
Sure.
But yeah, it was sort of having another Death Star. Again, I'm like, okay. But it was exactly what you just said. It wasn't really that big a deal. It was brought in really late.
In an insanely big deal, but it's not.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was brought in really late to the story, and they're like, "Well, how do we get it? There's always a weak spot." Yeah. You're right. Yes, there's a weak spot again.
And
you know what I mean?
To me, the problem is that's lampshading it in a way that's like winking at the audience.
Right.
And I mean, I was talking about this with a friend earlier today. I was like, in the original movie, the fact that they blow up the Death Star is just dumb luck. Because they're getting the rebels, like, this is it. This is their last stand.
Oh, right. Sure. Right.
The original Death Star, right? And why does it happen? Because Luke trusts the Force and Han Solo shows up at the last minute. If not for either of those things, they're done. They're toast.
Right.
So, and the threat is such that we I don't know, it just feels more immediate. With this, it's an even bigger threat, but it feels like a smaller threat because they're reacting. They're so nonchalant about it.
Yeah, and on my rewatch of the original trilogy, watching A New Hope, I was amazed at the tension from this movie from 1977. Like that whole trench run, and
which you've seen a million times.
It's almost like I watched it again for the first time last week, really. And so I think having that sort of like, wow, that whole sequence was just so fantastic. And then coming in here and it was just like, well, we're just going to have to like, shoot it a couple times. It's like, well, that didn't work. Let's just do another run, and they're like shooting at it again. And on first viewing, that's kind of how I felt about it. I was like, man, that was just really kind of a non thing. And the second time I sort of realized, and I still feel like it's not as well realized as it could be, but I realized it was more about, this isn't going to cut it. It was almost like Return of the Jedi. Like, well, this isn't going to cut it. We need to depend on other people to get this thing down so we can do this. So It really was more about Han saving the day and blowing up that.
And sacrificing himself in the process.
Yeah. Coming down into the mud and whatever and like doing it himself. Like, well, we got to go do it.
Sure. Okay.
Which helped me a little bit more the second time. But yeah, it's also kind of a crazier, like when you look at the Death Star, it like in a weird sort of fantasy way makes sense. But this one, it was sort of like, it's a planet that they hollowed out that sucks the sun into itself. Like, it was like, what?
Well, and you can't maneuver it. You're pretty much rooted to one place. You know what I mean?
I heard a very funny story on another podcast where a guy walked out of the premiere.
Okay.
And it said that. He's like, well, if it just sucks up like the sun and then the sun goes away, like you can't really use it that often. And he said some Lucasfilm employee was in front of him and turned around and was like, it moves.
Well, you could clarify that. I mean,
it's true. It's a mobile planet.
I will say this, Brian. As I was watching it yesterday, I was like, leave it to J.J. Abrams to create a lens flare that destroys planets.
Wait, I have two things I want to say, and I don't want to lose either of them. One, someone else pointed out to me at work. They were like, man, JJ really loves watching planets implode.
That's true.
It's totally like, and then two, I guess this is skipping to something else, but speaking of the lens flares, this movie looked great.
It really did.
JJ really honed his everything. He gave it everything he's got, but he also held back from his tendencies, which are very clear because they're in all his movies. And he was very reverential about, I'm making a Star Wars film. It's obvious.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a whole broader conversation, but I mean, in terms of the aesthetic, like all the tangible things, all the creatures, the puppets, the droids, the whatever, but also just the way that it looked. I mean, he didn't have his camera shaking all over the place as he can do from time to time. The lens flares were only when any normal movie would have a lens flare, when there's like a bright light behind someone. This looked like a Star Wars movie.
Well, I think that one of his skills as a filmmaker is mimicry.
Yeah.
And in the same way that Super 8 was sort of his karaoke version of Spielberg.
Right.
I think this was a karaoke version of the entire original trilogy, the aesthetic of the entire original trilogy.
Yeah.
And I don't say that in a pejorative sense, by the way. Just to
No.
be clear, I think
that takes skill in and of itself.
That's exactly right. It's skill, and I appreciate, and I know you did this. I know the just the tactile nature of this film. The fact that you felt like you could just reach out and touch the grimy surfaces of the Millennium Falcon, and the sense that we were in it, that was so deliberate. And having just rewatched the prequels recently, such a paradigm shift from, hey, let's just have them walk through blue nothing, and then we'll have the computers paint in their environment.
Yeah. Lucas deserves credit for the technology that he innovated. And I went to a Q&A this morning with J.J. Abrams, and he even said that. He's like, look, Lucas is much maligned for the heavy green screen, blue screen, aesthetic of the prequels. But he's like, that technology and that stuff that he was pioneering helped make this movie possible. And so I would add on to that, then I just wish that Lucas had realized how to marry the two.
Sure.
And that's what JJ did. And obviously there's probably a crap ton of CG in this movie, but I never thought about it. There's only one shot in this movie that I thought about the CG. Just one. And that's pretty crazy. You know what I mean?
What was it? I'm curious if it's the same one that I had.
Was it when the Falcon crashes in the snow?
Yeah, that was, yeah.
It was the only one that didn't look right.
Just slightly like
a video game.
Right.
And that I'll give that as a credit to the movie, because everything else looked completely like tangible, like you were saying.
Actually, and I'll add to that and this is I can't take credit from this. Somebody else mentioned this, that the tactile nature of it is so pronounced that the motion capture, what's his name, Snoke, calls attention to itself by virtue of not being like, it's very obviously mocap.
Let's talk Snoke, man.
Well, what's his deal?
I am not crazy about this character.
My theory is he is 3 feet tall.
That would be hilarious. Well, when he was first introduced, I was like, this is the first misstep.
Interesting.
This does not feel like Star Wars. I was like, having this, because we're introduced to this emperor,
because you think he's a giant.
He looks enormous.
Yeah.
And I was like, Star Wars hasn't really done that. That feels weird. And then when they showed a close-up of his face, I heard someone somewhere else, I wish I could credit, say it looked like a Lord of the Rings monster reject.
Exactly.
And that is exactly what he looks like.
It looks like an Andy Serkis character.
It does, but well, there you go. But the acting was fine, but it was it just did not blend into everything that was going on. Why not just get Andy Serkis with makeup on his face?
Right.
I don't.
Good point.
I don't know. But then when the hologram ended,
I think it'd be funny if he's like, guys, I can do that. They just assume.
Yeah. Yeah. Or actually, maybe they thought they were going to do that, but Andy Serkis just shows up with dots on his face already. It's just.
I guess we got to design a character.
But when it showed him as a giant, I was like, and then when it disappeared as a hologram, I was like, maybe it's not. But then I just can't picture Rey staring this CG thing down and it having the weight that it needs. The Maz Kanata character.
Yeah.
She felt a little removed, but it didn't bother me that much.
Sure.
But if he's going to be the Emperor, I assume at some point,
sure.
I don't want it to feel like that thing isn't in the room with everybody else.
That's a fascinating observation. Yeah. I mean, that's something that, they're going to need to lick that they need to figure that out.
Right.
But I mean, beyond even just the aesthetics of his depiction, I mean, what's his deal?
Yeah, it seems like with the Empire always had the Emperor behind it. And the Emperor, in A New Hope, remember, we were talking about, we were sort of fascinated on rewatch that Vader is like a lackey in that movie. And one of the generals even puts him down as like, you and your stupid religion,
Yeah.
you know, and it's sort of like this thing where, and it's like the Force isn't respected or understood by any of those guys. Like it's an old thing from the past.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when you get into the third film, the whole empire was being run by a guy who was completely tapped into that Force, the dark side of the Force. And it looks like this is the similar sort of thing. Like you have the First Order, a new sort of empire, but again, it looks like the person really pulling all the strings is another person who's tapped into the dark side of the Force.
Which is why it's weird that General Hux, who's played by Domhnall Gleeson, just shits all over Kylo Ren. Because both of them are in front of Snoke, and he's like, "Yeah, Ren did this, sir."
Yeah. What'd you think of the whole like Nazi rally thing?
I mean, it's like, I get it. You know, when you think about it, like
I think we're on the same page. I can already tell in your voice.
Well, it's just, I mean, it's like what this movie is about is I think this would be on TV tropes or something. It would be, you know, considered the unhappy happy ending or whatever, you know, where you have a happy ending and then you immediately undo that happy ending.
Right.
Right. So this movie needs to get us back to some approximation of what the status quo was pre-Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So how do you do that? By you have the quote unquote empire. They wipe out the Republic. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the Republic is gone. So now what is it? Well, now it's the First Order is in charge, and here we have this ragtag band. Oh, hey, we're right back to where we were.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that being said, I went to like friggin' Wikipedia or whatever just to kind of get some background on this. And essentially, the way the First Order came up is because the Republic reformed after Jedi,
mm-hmm.
and they basically just turned a blind eye to what the First Order was doing.
Mm.
And I'm like, how are you guys are just as terrible now as you were before you fell. Like this.
Right. History repeats itself.
Well, I mean, it's like when you think about it, they didn't build Starkiller Base in like a day and a half. It probably took a while.
Yeah, to hollow out a planet.
Right? And you think, and they had to test it probably, right?
Yeah, right.
You think somebody would be like, "Hey, didn't there used to be a sun there?" You think somebody would investigate, right?
Right. There used to be a sun there. Yeah.
So I was thinking, I was like, you guys are terrible. You deserve what happens to you. Because this is all like, this is canon, right? It's in like there's some new books that chronicle the post Jedi, and it's like immediately after the war, the Republic demilitarizes. And I'm like, well, you guys you deserve everything that happened.
Dude, that's hilarious.
So that was my response. I was just like, and it's funny because I sound like I'm dogging on it. This is like good natured.
No, we love it.
Yeah,
I think we both really enjoyed it. So I mean, these are the things inevitably, that are.
You have fun with it,
Yeah.
But that's again, I contrast my reactions to this film with what I had after Phantom Menace, and it was a lot of like, this is why I feel more positive about this one, because again, I go with my gut, and I remember watching Phantom Menace and being like, well, maybe the next one will make this one feel more complete. You know what I mean? It was a lot of like, in this one, I'm like, well, there's a lot of balls in the air. But I had a blast watching this one.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I'm like, well, that's why I give it a thumbs up, And
I remember we talk about Crystal Skull a lot, but like I remember there was a point in that movie when I watched the prequels and when I watched Crystal Skull, I'm like, look, I watch the Indiana Jones films, at least one of them every year. I see at least one every year. Star Wars, at least probably all of them every year.
Sure.
And so I sort of have that in my mind, like unfairly, but I'm watching a new Star Wars film or I'm watching Crystal Skull. I'm like, well, this is a movie I'm going to need to rewatch over and over. Does this have that factor for me?
Yeah.
And I got to say, to this movie's credit, today I enjoyed watching it a second time. I'm like, this is a very rewatchable movie.
Well, sure. I've seen it 3 times, 2 days apart. And I should say, and you know this, I took my boys with me for the third viewing, and that was like that was the one I was most looking forward to.
I'm dying to know what they thought. What did your kids think? They're the target audience really for this.
They really are. So Return of the Jedi was their favorite of all 6 of them until yesterday. So, and I think part of that is just the enthusiasm of seeing a new Star Wars on the big screen. But I mean, they were into it. They got it. They, they were sad when Han died. And I was actually wondering about that. I was like, is this going to be kind of like a traumatic moment? And it wasn't, in the sense that they weren't like traumatized, but it was memorable and it was sad. And I was like, well, good. I mean, that's you should have that sense of sometimes the characters, the people, that you lose them. I think that's important, and I think it'll be fun, I think, to see this series continue. And actually, just to pick up on that, I was telling somebody else this. I actually think that the existence of this film and this new trilogy actually allows me to view the prequels overall in a more positive light. Explain. And yeah, that's what most people say. They're like, you make no sense.
I'm just curious.
Well, and the reason is because what it does is it, instead of being half of Star Wars, it's a third of Star Wars. And assuming we continue, it'll be, a fifth of Star Wars. Like it becomes this slice of a story. And like watching this new film, you realize that Star Wars is now roots, or any of these multi-generational sagas.
I don't think I'm allowed to say that.
I can kind of say it, see. But in the sense that characters sort of flit in and out of the story,
Yes.
And so in other words, like if you were to watch them all in number order, it's like we spend all this time with Obi-Wan. Guess what? Obi-Wan leaves. And then, we love Han Solo. Well, Han Solo leaves. And, and there's something very real about that. And I like that aspect of it.
That is a really great thought. I really like that. Yeah, Obi-Wan comes in, Obi-Wan goes out. And then we meet Luke carries on for a little bit. Luke will eventually be ushered out. And then we'll have Rey. And then, I like that. Yeah, that's a really... I mean,
when you think about it, because the question I've asked before is this the end of the saga, or are we going to keep going? And you really can. You just keep, the story continues, and eventually it'll be this amazing tapestry with all these characters flitting in and out. There's a quote that I have in my review, and I apply this when it comes to Han Solo, right? The difference between a sad ending and a happy ending is when you end the story.
Right.
And, it's like, well, we had the happy ending for 30 plus years. But this is the trade-off. Like, you either have that happy ending and it's wonderful and perfect, but the trade-off is the story is over.
Right.
Or you say the story continues, but we have to now start saying goodbye to the things that, this is very similar to the conversation we had about Creed a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
We're talking about Rocky. It's kind of the same thing,
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned Obi-Wan. We should talk about this. This is pretty cool that they found a way to incorporate Obi-Wan and Yoda into this movie.
Yeah, which I didn't know till this morning, which I'm glad I did, because then I got to listen for it.
I wish I knew. I wish I had known before my third viewing. Did you pick up on it?
I did hear it, and only because I knew. Well, we should say the moment is when Rey is at Maz Kanata's cantina. And I'm such a dork. And
and she's played by Lupita Nyong'o, by the way, and I think she's really good in this.
Yeah, she was interesting. Like, I almost wanted a little bit more specificity about who she was and why and whatever, because she looked interesting. Her and Han clearly had a history. I almost wanted to understand her better.
Yeah.
But I thought she did a good job.
Yeah.
But anyways, that was a moment. Even the first time I saw it, when I was sort of like I said, overthinking everything, that was a moment I just loved. When Rey is like, Rey is called to the basement of this cantina and she finds this box. And I remember watching, I'm like, what's in the box?
Like, what's in the box?
What's in the box? And
it was Gwyneth Paltrow's head. Really?
And I was like,
strange.
and I was like, So it's Luke's lightsaber, and as soon as she touches it, she.
And by the way, it's Luke's lightsaber from The Empire Strikes Back.
Yes,
So there's a whole story that we're missing.
Yeah. Which, by the way, can we time out? I'm going to Zach Morris this. This is a question I have for you as a fellow crazy Star Wars fan. When Luke gets his hand cut off in Empire Strikes Back, decides to leap off that tower,
yes,
and falls down that tube and then lands on that weather vane.
Yes.
Remember when he looks down and you see an object fall down through the clouds? Is that his hand? We were arguing about it last week, and I rewound it. I always thought that was his hand. And we were rewinding it and pausing it, and we were still on Blu-ray, paused, big screen TV, still couldn't tell. So anyway, I
have to be honest, I've never paid attention for that.
I'd love for anyone to comment or email or whatever. And
I'm gonna have to find out about that.
I always wondered. I don't know. So anyway, yes. So that lightsaber then ended up in the basement of this cantina, and so Rey touches onto it, and immediately she starts seeing visions. And I was like, her first vision is where Luke and Vader confront each other at Cloud City, which I was like, that is awesome.
Is that what she's seeing? Is that what she's seeing?
The first place she's transported to is that hallway where Vader is like slowly descending on Luke right before he starts making all those objects fly at him.
So makes sense because that's the last time he held the lightsaber.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, dude,
you know what?
I got
wouldn't
chilled.
have even. I was like, this looks familiar, but it didn't click.
Yeah, because that's actually one of my favorite moments in the entire series, that whole square off with Vader and Luke. So anyway, so then there's that, but then she starts seeing things that we haven't seen before. And she sees what we saw in the trailer where a cloaked Luke, we assume, is next to R2 and puts his robotic hand on him. We see Kylo Ren and a bunch of other of the Dark Knights standing around like a field of dead bodies that presumably they've taken out and whatever. But then we hear voices going in and out, and apparently I think on first viewing I heard them, but I didn't recognize them. But we've learned that was Yoda saying something, which is all like newly recorded from what I understand. Yeah, Frank Oz. They got Ewan McGregor to say something, and they cobbled together. This is super cool, amazing. Yeah, Alec Guinness. They found audio of him from the original film saying "afraid." Yeah, and they trimmed it so he's saying Ray, right? Which is like, come on. And it's funny because I heard it this time, and I was like, was that Obi-Wan, like the old Obi-Wan? Wow. And I forget what he says, something about like, Ray, these are your first steps. First steps, yeah, something like that. But so the second half, that these are your first steps, or whatever the exact phrase is, that was Ewan McGregor. Yeah, very cool. And you know what this means, by the way? This is just a cool observation. That means that Obi-Wan Kenobi is a presence in every single Star Wars movie so far. I didn't think about that. Yeah, kind of cool. Yeah. But I really enjoyed her whole journey with this thing and like trying to figure out. Well, and this is an interesting thing too. I'm going to start with something that I know a lot of people had a nitpick with, which didn't bother me so much the second time. Is how adept some of these people seem to be with the Force. Well, how adept Rey seems to be with the Force, which I think on second viewing, I think it has more to do with, we're going to find out why in the second film. I think the idea is that she is especially like the Force has awakened. Right. And so she's exhibiting a skill set this is new territory. But she seems, I felt like, because I was already thinking about this, I wondered if she was already familiar with it and had sort of repressed the memory. I'm wondering, this is my theory actually, I thought maybe she was trained with Luke at the beginning, and then when Kylo turned, like it was all scattered and she was like ripped away and then abandoned on that planet for safety. But she's just like a little itty bitty when she's left on the planet. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. That was just my... I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I mean, I think they're very deliberately being opaque with what the backstory is, obviously. Yeah, because she has these moments where she sort of knows to tap into it, like when she's on that chair and when she does the mind trick to Daniel Craig. Yes, I was going to bring that up. Mention that. When Rey's in the I keep calling it the torture chair. I don't know what I don't know what you would call it.
Interrogation chair.
Interrogation chair. And there's a stormtrooper behind her, and then she decides to use the Force, which is kind of interesting. And I've heard people say, well, how would she know to do that?
Yeah.
Like that's a thing. And like, I don't really know. The movie doesn't really explain that.
Well, the beauty, you can just hand wave all of it and say, oh, there's the Force.
That she even knew that was something you could do. Because it almost feels like something you would have seen a Jedi do and you were trying to imitate it. That's how it came across to me. Like she was like, oh, I've seen this before. Like, let me try it.
The power of the Force compels you. It's like The Exorcist.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so there's a stormtrooper standing guard over her, and she does the whole, you will uncuff me from this chair and leave with the door open. And he's like, what? He doesn't go for it at first, but then eventually he does. And apparently that stormtrooper is played by Daniel Craig.
Did you? I mean, I knew to pay attention for it. It's 100% Daniel Craig.
The second time I realized it. I had been told, and then when I heard it.
Yeah, his delivery, not just his delivery, his physicality.
Yeah.
Because we just saw Bond recently. Like, I know the way the guy moves.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That's
fun. And then also it's such a funny little moment too. And she's like, and drop your weapon. And he's like, and drop my weapon. Yeah. Like the way he says it is so funny.
Now, Brian, we've been talking this tells us something. We've been talking for an hour and 20 minutes.
Have we really?
We have not talked about Luke Skywalker.
Well, he comes at the very end there.
Now, this was a prediction I made. I want to say this. For months and months and months, I was like, listen, here's what's going to happen. It's going to be at the very, 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 very end of the movie. Luke is going to show up, and it'll be the equivalent of "You found me," and then credits.
That's literally what happens.
Yeah,
even less than that. He doesn't even less. That's what people were pointing out. They had that famous picture that came out from the first table read. Mm-hmm. And Luke was there, and Luke has nary a line in the entire movie. So it's like, what did he do at the table read?
What's interesting is that first of all, actually, let's talk about his presence in the film. His presence hangs throughout because it's Luke Skywalker, and then when we see him, I thought it was an amazing moment.
I did too.
He looks like such a badass.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what's the story? Like, I want to know, like, what happened? What happened between the last time we saw Luke and the next time we see Luke?
Well, that's the thing, because we've seen Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
And we know that he's been doing interviews for this movie and whatever, but like seeing him as Luke Skywalker. And he's got that. We were talking about this, I feel like last time, or maybe on the commentary, where an interesting thing with the Star Wars universe is sort of the haircuts.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And it's like Luke even had like a haircut that looked like a Star Wars haircut, if that makes any sense.
It does.
And it just, that's Luke Skywalker 30 years later. Like,
yeah,
what's he been up to? Like, I'm dying to know. And it's now we got to wait.
And I don't know if you paid attention the second time, but like the look on his face when he sees Rey. So she reaches out holding his lightsaber, and he has this look where what's he thinking?
I know it almost looks dumbfounded, like almost like he can't believe. Like he looks surprised to me.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. Is like that's a look that we're going to be picking apart for the next 18 months.
Right.
And the thing is that the next movie we have to assume it's not going to pick up like seconds later.
Yeah, usually there's time jumps.
It's months or years.
Yeah. I mean, is she going to train with him and then come back stronger than ever and he's going to be there in the background, kind of like Obi-Wan in the first one, or who knows? It's
the great unexplored. It's just what's next, Yeah.
Well, what'd you think of the snow battle, the lightsaber battle? I mean, that's every great, Star Wars movie's got a great lightsaber battle. So what'd you think of this one?
I will say this. I think that of the 7 films, it's among the less memorable for me so far.
I don't disagree.
And I think it's staged well and everything. I actually thought it was. I liked that it starts with Finn wielding the blade, and some people are like, oh, how does he know how to use a lightsaber? And I'm like, well, he's a stormtrooper. He's probably been trained how to wield a weapon. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, because remember he was fighting with the guy who had the baton. So I'm like, well, they probably have that training,
Yeah. Well, he was in sanitation.
Well, and I was actually thinking about that. I was like. You got a black stormtrooper. You got to make him a janitor. Like,
it didn't even cross my mind.
That was my thought. I was like, really,
That's funny.
But regardless, as far as I thought it was cool that Finn holds his own to an extent, but then he just gets his ass kicked.
Well, and they do a good job of Kylo Ren has been damaged. Like he got shot in the side.
He got
He's
shot
like
by
punching
Chewie.
his side, trying to like keep feeling in his side. So we know he's weakened.
Sure.
Because I mean, yeah, he as reckless as he is, and maybe unstable as he is, he's still very strong.
Yeah.
In the Force. So I mean, yeah, to square off, I thought they did a decent job of reminding us that like he's not at his best right now. And so that was probably why Finn could hold his own as long as he did. But then eventually, yeah, like you said, he gets his ass handed to him.
Yeah, and so once she jumps in, I think the fight actually I didn't get the sense that like, oh, how does she know how to do all this? Because I mean, she's already a good fighter. We know that. We've seen that.
With her staff or whatever she's got. Exactly, yeah.
Right. And she's still, I mean, she's fighting at a disadvantage until she, begins to channel the Force or, whatever happens to her at the end there. So again, to me, it's not especially memorable in the same way that like, I think of the, when Obi-Wan fights Darth Vader is like the least visually dynamic of the original ones. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have importance in the story, but it's not one where I'm like, man, I want to watch a cool lightsaber fight. Like that's not the one I jump to. You know what I mean?
Well, and I also think, I think I think technically the best one's probably the Phantom Menace. That one's just awesome. But like, I think my favorite one, I don't know. I was gonna say Empire, because Luke is weak, but he's like angry.
And also just the way Kirshner shot it, where the light and the dark, and I think that Jedi, they're more evenly matched, but the way it's shot is flatter, so it's less visually engaging.
It's flatter, but there's a lot of emotion going on. My point I was going to bring up is the story is what makes me love those two fights.
Totally agree.
And I think in this one, we still don't understand any of those three's relationships to each other necessarily. So it's really more of like a visual feast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Rather than something that we can put a lot of like meaning behind. So I think that's why maybe it doesn't stand out as much to me. That said, the moment that I love during that the most is when Luke's saber's in the snow and reaching for it, and then it flies to Rey.
And then we have that crescendo of the Force music.
Yes, the Force music theme plays. Both times I think I spontaneously started clapping because I loved it so much. That moment, and which is making sense to what I say, I think, you know what I mean? Because I'm feeling that.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily feeling what they're doing toward each other. But I mean, that said, it looked cool. I really, it's funny, the lightsaber with the hilt, I guess, was that what you call it? Like the cross?
Yeah, I forget the term, but yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. And well,
it's not a real lightsaber, which I think is cool.
Is it ever explained that he created that lightsaber himself? Or is that something that people have sort of explained outside of the film?
It's not said in the film.
Mm-hmm. I for some reason had that in my mind, and I didn't know why.
I mean, I assumed it,
It kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like a Sith fanboy, so here's his like, it's the equivalent of like when you would get cardboard and wrap it in tinfoil and make a...
yeah. Oh, speaking of, then he wears the helmet. That's kind of an interesting thing too. I mean, you got to assume he only does that to emulate Vader.
Yes.
He doesn't really have a reason for it. But then they did give him a scar.
They give him a scar
across the face, which was cool. But then also, did you notice? I didn't notice this. Someone had to point it out that when he puts his helmet down, he puts it down in ashes, which you got to assume are Vader's ashes.
Oh, wow!
Didn't occur to me. Someone had to point that out.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and that was I actually really enjoyed that scene too, where he was like
talking to
Vader's helmet, and he was like, "I'm feeling like the light creeping in." Like I'm sort of. It was a weird reversal to hear someone tempted by the light.
Yeah. Well, and it it makes you wonder what is the state of how Anakin Skywalker is perceived following the events of Return of the Jedi. Is he known as Darth Vader? You know what I mean? Like,
was he ever known to be redeemed? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really, only Luke would know it. Well, and his friends, I guess.
Well, you'd think his nephew, his grandson would know it.
That is a good point. Yeah, right. You're right. You have to assume that that's what Leia would tell him.
Yeah. I mean, that's the interesting thing is that it's almost, and I can't take credit for this. This is actually Pervez, who I co-host Diffuse Congruence with. He was saying that this trilogy is almost, it's about the legacy of Anakin Skywalker.
Like it carries on.
Yeah, so in other words, it's like if we were to break it down, you'd say the prequels are about the fall of Anakin Skywalker, the originals are about the redemption of Anakin Skywalker. This is about what is his legacy? What has he left the universe?
I could even see a scene where Luke is squaring off with Kylo Ren and even saying like, he changed.
Yeah. It's and he was a good guy at the end, and Kylo Ren would be like, no, that's not true. It's impossible. Now, they've been talking about, I think we talked about this on the show, that supposedly Hayden Christensen is going to make some kind of appearance in the next movie.
Is that true? Someone was trying to tell me that today, and I was like, shut your face.
Yeah, we do. I think I'm pretty sure we talked about it on our show.
I remember hearing rumors about, I thought it was for this one. Like people thought they'd seen him at an airport and blah, blah, blah. I thought it was for this. I didn't know it was for the next one.
I believe it's for the next one.
Okay.
Now I'm not opposed to the idea of seeing a Force ghost of Anakin Skywalker. I have to believe that given better direction, Hayden Christensen would not be terrible.
But do you think he's just going to, out of just reaction, like, do you really want to put that in your movie where everyone's going to go, ugh?
That's
That's
a good point. It's a shame.
If you really, the only reason you would do that is because you figured out exactly how to do it right.
Sure.
And they're not going to let him be bad. So,
sure.
Maybe that's your immediate reaction. But then hopefully you'd be like, oh, maybe it'll be the redemption of Hayden Christensen. That's what the legacy
which is sorely needed.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Now we were talking about how Ewan McGregor, his voice is in this film, and that knowing that put a big smile on my face, for if nothing else, for the reason that they're keeping him in the family, and that means that we may in fact get that Obi-Wan Kenobi movie, which I would really like to see.
I feel like that's a no-brainer. You got to do that.
It's really, when you think about it, for all of the crap that gets shoveled on the prequels, and they have their defenders and their deriders and everything else, the one thing everybody can agree on is Ewan McGregor played the shit out of that role.
Absolutely.
That's like the one area that it's like we can all join hands on and find commonality. It's really true.
Yeah.
And it's really like, because when you watch Revenge of the Sith, especially like that final battle between him and Anakin, you feel it because of him.
Oh yeah,
you feel the emotion of it because of him.
I would love to see Obi-Wan's adventures on Tatooine, or
right,
looking after Luke, or I don't know, who knows. Like
I've said this before. I want to see like kind of a William Money in Clint Eastwood in Unforgiven kind of film about Obi-Wan on Tatooine, like he's called out of retirement for this last adventure or whatever, just something. I think there's room in this universe for that, and I'm like, that actor is so beloved as that character. It seems like something that
yeah, and I mean, we've got plenty of time ahead of us.
Well, and
to pump out these movies. So
and as we sort of wrap up this conversation, I mean, I think that's the cool thing, is that we've been talking about this for years now. We've been talking about not only episode 7, but all the various spin-offs that they're planning. But when you think about it, everything was contingent on this one not sucking.
Yeah.
And so we're here now and we're like, hey, it's pretty good. Hey, I'm excited about Rogue One now. Hey, they got this young Han Solo. I'm excited, and suddenly it's like, it's okay to get excited now.
Yeah. I gotta say, it was really cool. The day of Thursday, December 17th, I wore my Star Wars shirt to work because I was going like right to the movies afterward. And a lot of people at work had Star Wars shirts on. I was like, oh, that's fun. And then I was at a facility that doesn't have to do with my building, and people were asking like, oh, you going to see Star Wars tonight? I'm seeing Star Wars tonight. I was like, yeah. And then we go to dinner beforehand, and like literally 50% of the restaurant had their Star Wars shirts on, and like hats and this and that. We go to the theater, of course, and I was like, man, yeah, they really, really got everybody on board for this. You know, people who probably never had a Star Wars shirt before got one, you know, because they were so excited, and like so much riding on this.
Right.
And it seems everybody's pretty pleased.
Yeah.
Even people with hangups, you know, they're like, well, I was hung up on this or whatever, but like, yeah, I liked it. Like they did it well.
But yeah, I'll watch the next one.
Well, you know, and it's almost like you kind of, in defense of its repetitiveness, it's almost like kind of the safest way to restart it.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like go with what works.
Yeah, and I mean, I made the Creed comparison before. I mean, it worked with that too. Where
Wait, what do you mean?
That was kind of a replay of Rocky 1 with tweets.
Yes, yeah.
So I mean, it's these two movies are very similar, and that sounds like a weird thing to say, but I mean, it's about continuing a franchise and using old generation characters to hand the torch to new generation characters while sort of refreshing the touchstones that we like.
Yes. Yep. Exactly.
You know.
So
therefore, go see Creed and Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, in my opinion, this is a success.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Now, Brian, did we not mention anything? I feel like, you know, we sort of spread our tendrils in a lot of different directions. Is there anything that we wanted to mention, or feel like we covered all the bases?
I'm sure we could go for like another 2 hours.
We really could.
But I really loved the reveal of the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
That was
perfect. Didn't see it coming.
I've heard some people say, you know, some of the fan service they weren't crazy about, like seeing the chess game again and things like that, which I didn't really care. No, I didn't mind. But that was so well done, I thought. Like them running toward the ship. Or they're being pursued, and it's just like, let's take that ship. Ship's garbage, and they don't show it. Never crossed my mind. That joke was so perfect. I didn't even cross my mind. And the ship they're running to blows up, and it's like, well, I guess we got to take the garbage. Camera whips over, see the Millennium Falcon, John Williams. Like, I was like, yeah,
this is it.
and that was great too. Like that whole, you know, where she can't fly it very well.
Right.
That whole chase. Our audience at the DGA, I went to the Directors Guild of America screening today, and the audience ripped into applause at the end of that sequence because it's so well done.
Now, speaking of that screening, I mean, during the course of the Q&A, Lawrence Kasdan was there, J.J. Abrams was there. Did either of them drop any other knowledge bombs that you thought were worth sharing with us here?
No, you know what? I found on Entertainment Weekly, they did a WGA screening yesterday, Writers Guild, and I think they seem to get more into the nitty gritty of that sort of stuff yesterday. So if people want to check that out, I'd give that a shout out, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But today it was kind of interesting. It was Lawrence Kasdan was moderating it, but because it was sort of like director oriented, and because Lawrence Kasdan was like there every day and like helped write the movie, he didn't really get into like the nuts and bolts of the story.
Okay. Which
we were sort of like, we were hoping to hear a little bit more like tidbits and sort of like inspiration and things like that. He got more into like really technical directing sort of things, but that was still interesting. And I guess one sort of interesting thing was Lawrence Kasdan was asking, how heavily do you storyboard? Like, are you willing to sort of drop everything if you're feeling something else? And one of the examples JJ said was, he said, yes, of course. I'm sure every director would say that. But he said that, you know, you just have to be ready to, like you have this whole thing in your mind. This is how it's going to go. But then you show up and you see a bit of set decoration and you're like, oh, I didn't think about that. And then it sort of like changes everything. Like, well, either that's not going to work or like, well, it'd be much better if I shot it from over here.
Sure.
And he said one of those moments was when they were outside the hangar, and, you know, he said we had like 500 rebel, or what are they called now?
The Resistance
extras. And the shot that's in the trailer where Boyega is walking and then Poe pats him on the shoulder, and then the camera whips around, and
right.
You've seen that in like all the trailers. He said that was a moment that wasn't planned, but they were waiting to get to something else, and the like weather wasn't cooperating, but they had everybody in this spot and they couldn't move on. So they're like, well, I don't know, let's just try something.
Wow.
they just came up with that out of like thin air. And it's like, it's
a memorable shot.
It's a memorable shot. And it's a kind of a memorable moment between those two, because you got this guy who abandoned the bad guys and has joined the good guys. And now you got like the hero of all good guys, the best pilot in the universe, apparently. And like, you know what I mean? And him like patting him on the shoulder.
Pilot though? I don't know.
But you know what I mean? I thought it was an impactful moment without words.
Yeah.
And it's funny to know that was like improvised.
That's really cool.
So yeah, he talked a lot about that sort of thing. So
well, that sounds like something really cool that you got to be a part of. So
I'm such a awesome. Yeah, I felt very lucky to be there.
Well, and I think that's a good place to wrap up this conversation.
Yeah, man, this is a conversation we've been waiting years to have.
I was wondering, like, can we sustain this for an entire show? And we've gone past our normal allotment of time. And the truth is, we could probably go for another half hour easily.
I'm sure.
There's lots to say. So I'm very happy to be able to wrap up 2015 with this. We'll be back next year with a regular show, and we'll be talking about some of the brand new trailers that got dropped with this, including Independence Day and Star Trek, and a lot of stuff that we haven't had a chance to talk about. So I'm looking forward to unpacking some of those with you.
Yeah, I'm seeing Hateful Eight coming up in a couple of days. So
yeah, I'm seeing it on Wednesday. So we'll definitely be talking about that in our next episode as well. And also a lot of the big year-end stuff, which we haven't had a chance to unpack here, but Concussion and The Big Short and a lot of
yeah.
So lots of fun stuff coming up. But that wraps up our Star Wars: The Force Awakens episode. But hey, we've got plenty more Star Wars that we'll be talking about until the end of the universe.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
probably. So on behalf of Brian Hall, I'm Zaki Hassan, and before I wrap things up, I do want to sincerely extend my thanks to everybody who's been listening to recent episodes. Our Star Wars commentary track, which we did for episode 4, is now our highest ranked episode ever.
So awesome. Awesome. I'm really happy that people are enjoying it.
That's bonkers to me, and I'm very grateful that in particular, I'm sure for Brian, you too, that episode, which obviously means a lot to both of us, is
personally satisfying, very much.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And getting feedback from people has been great. Also, I wanted to mention somebody left a new review for us on iTunes.
Oh,
and this is a fairly rare occurrence, so I wanted to share that.
Yeah,
with you, Brian, too. And this is from Bruno Bull, who wrote, "Super fun, an entertaining show with smart hosts who always provide sharp insight. One of my favorites."
Thank you so much, Bruno. That's awesome.
That
means a lot.
I'm glad you think we're smart. So glad somebody does.
Yeah.
But if you're looking to reach out to us, please do connect with us on Facebook, facebook.com/moviefilmpodcast, and hit like on that page. Also, I read the review on iTunes. Write us a review, leave us a star rating, let us know how we're doing. We're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, we're also on TuneIn Radio. So wherever you're looking for podcasts, you can probably find us, and do spread the word. And as for me, I'm at zakiscorner.com. That's the AKIS Corner. And also at the Huffington Post, where my movie reviews go up regularly. I'm also on Twitter at Zaki's Corner. Brian, do you have a Twitter account?
I do. I have an inactive Twitter account at Everything Brian. But I also write for the Bob's Burgers comic book. That's probably the most active place you can find me, which you can find in your local comic book shops, or you can find online, I believe.
And it's a great book, so please do check it out. And with that, that's 2015 Movie Film Podcast.
Star Wars. We did it.
See you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening.
Welcome, friends. It's the Movie Film Podcast. Movie Film Podcast. Enjoy the show. Zachy and